Hello there! We are long overdue for a new Hitchcock review. It's been months since the last one. I thought I'd ease back into it by revisiting one of his slightly lesser known British suspense films, 1936's Sabotage. This one stars Sylvia, Sidney, and Oskar Homolka. It's based on Joseph Conrad's novel, The Secret Agent, which is confusing because Hitchcock made another film in 1936 which was titled Secret Agent, but that's something else. That's based on a book by Somerset Maugham. Sabotage is also not to be confused with Saboteur, Hitchcock's 1942 film with Robert Cummings and Priscilla Lane and The Statue of Liberty. I've already reviewed that one. Perhaps because of all this potential for mistaken identity, I feel like Sabotage has a tendency to get left out of the discussion. And that's too bad, because I think it's one of Hitchcock's best efforts of the 1930s. Oskar Homolka plays Mr. Verloc, a man who runs a movie theater with his wife, played by Sylvia Sidney. Unbeknownst to her, he's gotten involved with a sabotage ring bent on terrorizing London. He's responsible for a huge power outage that plunges the city into darkness, but while the incident causes mass annoyance and amusement, it doesn't really scare people. So to make up for his failure and earn the money he'd been promised, Verloc agrees to a much more deadly assignment. Even though Sabotage is technically one of Hitchcock's earlier efforts in the genre, it is still a very well-made suspense film. Starting with The Lodger a few years before, he had already demonstrated a flair for suspense. Now, in films like this and The 39 Steps, that flair was getting to take center stage. There are some classic textbook examples of film technique here, how it tells the story in cinematic shorthand, shows what a character is thinking, directs the audience's attention to something, sets up an idea in one scene and delivers the payoff in a later scene. And the bomb sequence is like a masterclass in building suspense. It's probably not as subtle as it could have been, as some of his later suspenseful sequences are, but nevertheless, it's intense. There are a couple clips on YouTube you can watch in which Hitchcock describes the difference between mystery and suspense. Suspense meaning that the audience has an emotional connection with what's going on because they've been given certain information that the character doesn't have. As an example, he describes a scene where a group of people are sitting around a table talking about baseball, unaware that there's a bomb under the table. The scene plays out much differently if we, the audience, know that the bomb is there versus if we don't. The bomb sequence in this movie is a great execution of this. We know that an unsuspecting character is carrying a bomb that will go off at a certain time. This is nerve-wracking for us to watch, especially as the character repeatedly gets distracted and delayed and the minutes go by. The tension keeps increasing, the music, a mimicry of a ticking clock, becomes more aggressive, the shots get shorter, the anticipation reaches almost hysterical levels until finally... The funny thing about that clip where Hitchcock talks about this is that he actually refers to this movie as the only time he made the mistake of having the bomb go off. I find Verloc a complicated character. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about him. He tells his fellow conspirator that he doesn't want to kill anyone, he's against the shedding of blood, but then he agrees to do the assignment anyway, and he doesn't seem all that bothered about the casualties. It's like all of a sudden he's shut down his conscience. There is a point or two when I feel an inclination to feel just a little bit sorry for him, but then he'll say something harsh or insensitive, and it's like, pfft, you're just a jerk. He's also one of those criminals whose paranoia about getting caught only makes him act more suspicious. If he hadn't drawn so much attention to himself by acting weird, he might have avoided detection. But, and this is not a spoiler, you find out fairly early, Scotland Yard has had him under surveillance for months. The question isn't, will they catch him, but will they catch him in time? On the larger scale, it's a film about the hunt for a saboteur, told in part from his perspective. But what I think gives it an element of distinction and makes it more memorable is that it's really more an intimate, small-scale drama about four individuals: Verloc, his wife, her younger brother, and the undercover policeman who's in love with her. It's this personal angle that makes it more than just a suspenseful 76-minute flick about a guy who's going to blow something up. The target for the sabotage isn't even that important. It's the emotional connection and the impact these events have on these characters that holds everything together. Sylvia Sidney, with her sad, sad eyes, carries the brunt of the film's emotional weight. Her character seldom seems happy. Though she values her husband's kindness to her brother, her marriage doesn't seem to be a picnic. Verloc's pretty cranky, even when he's acting harmless. The undercover policeman, played by John Loder, who's been masquerading as a greengrocer and forcing himself into their lives, has seen all of this and developed feelings for her, which only complicates things for him when he has to perform his professional duty. There is kind of an exciting twist in the final act, which I won't go into, but it has a really good psychological build-up to it, and even though it's one of those things where I feel like, I'm not sure if I should be cheering for this, it's still awfully satisfying considering what came before. As has been noted with some other Hitchcock movies that deal with foreign agents, the political or national alliance of the Sabotage ring is left unclear. The agents we see are foreigners, but their country of origin is hazy. We only get a couple clues about their motivation. They refer to themselves as fighters, and a detective theorizes that they're making trouble for us at home to distract from what's going on abroad. But it's not a flaw that the movie doesn't explicitly say who they are or what they're fighting for. It has a more isolated focus than that. Its interest doesn't lie in global implications. To conclude all of this, I think Sabotage is a Hitchcock highlight of the decade. It's not quite as good as The 39 Steps or The Lady Vanishes. It's not as stylish, the leads aren't as memorable, the comic relief isn't quite as funny, but it holds its own. Hitchcock was already mastering his craft, and he'd only just started. Alright, those are my thoughts on Sabotage. I hope you enjoyed the review. Feel free to share your own thoughts on this movie if you've seen it in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching!